shit.
Hello! Welcome everybody to the Streakers Island podcast. It is I, Jacob Moore, the self-proclaiming sports analyst, joined by the usual suspects, Mr. Chazzy, Mr. Lane Dash and Dashko, and the non-hat wearing Mr. More for your money.
Woo! The long sleeve collar, love it. Phenomenal.
So, boys,
Well, it's a dress shirt, not a golf shirt.
oh, blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. Is Edmonton getting it done tonight?
I think so, yeah. I'm confident.
Even
Matthias
without
back.
Hyman and without Connor Brown. You're missing two very big pieces.
Yeah, but my boy's back. Matthias Ekholm is back, baby. I think that's a huge addition to the lineup.
That is true, and Matthias Ekholm is a big player to bring in.
Just think of how well they've done shutting down the Dallas Stars so far, and they didn't even have their best shutdown defenseman.
That is very true. You didn't have your best shutdown defenseman. And I thought this time I would pull the Dan. I was actually just doing this to make sure the chat section was working, but hello from me.
When was that photo taken?
That photo is actually from years ago. Dan Gray knows when, and Dan's thinking 70% Edmonton's taking it tonight, I think he's saying. But then we did some good old green screen to get a much nicer logo behind me, which is the Streakers Island podcast logo. So Dan Gray's saying 70%. So are you saying, actually, Dan, quick, are you saying 70% about Matthias Ekholm, 70% about the Oilers winning? You got a 70% on your math test in grade 10.
How are the Edmonton fans feeling? Are they at 70%?
I think Edmonton fans, from what I've been hearing, that is true. Dan Gray is actually the one who took that photo.
No way.
Ah, yeah, that's right.
He's a very good photographer, actually. If any of you guys are into, he has really awesome emergency service photography. So
Very cool.
definitely check out his photography. And he's saying Ekholm's at 70%. That's right, Dan. I think you got at least a 78 on your math test.
But he's in the lineup.
I'm hearing
That's
he is in the lineup tonight. Actually, maybe this is a good time to look over those projected Oilers lines on Daily Face-Off.
I just seen Jeff Skinner's in tonight.
He is in?
Oh.
That's what it says on Daily Face-Off.
Yeah, that's a good move.
Yeah, I think so.
Very good move.
Where are they going to slot him?
We will find out as soon as I get the mouse
I'd
over
like to
here.
see Perry on that top line.
They're
Frisky,
frisky.
yeah.
Yeah, they're ready. They're ready
Frisky.
for the rematch.
Yeah, of course.
If you're Edmonton too, you just want to get this done, and I
Oh,
think
you
we
have
put
to.
up-
Knowing it's Florida now? Absolutely
Oh,
you want to get this done.
And you were right, Mr. Chazzy, 5.2.
There we are. There he is.
Corey
I like
Perry
it.
up on the top line. I won't be shocked if there will be times in this game where McDavid and Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins is a line at times, because I don't see Corey Perry playing 20 minutes. Dan Gray's already saying, looks like we'll have Sunday, that confident in Edmonton that
Wow.
people are
Oh.
pre-ordering their Domino's pizza. We're not sponsored by Domino's Pizza.
It's a
But we
quick
could be.
turnaround.
We need some pizza from Francesco there.
Very true. But looking at this Oiler lineup here, we're seeing some consistency. We know Corey Perry, McDavid, and Nugent Hopkins have had some success. The second line is not changing whatsoever. If Evander Kane, Leon Draisaitl, and Kasperi Kapanen.
And I called it. I said Kapanen would step up.
Now, Dan, I also called it when you kept saying you don't get why Pot Kozing's in the lineup, and I said he's in the lineup because he's big and he's fast. And he's continuing to stay on this line with Janmark, but you have Arvidsson on the line, and then you have a line of Skinner, Henrique, and Frederick. This is crazy that this is a lineup with injury problems.
Yeah.
Edmonton's just got a really deep lineup going into the playoffs.
They do.
You know, and that is true.
Yeah, I can see that too.
Right, that does happen sometimes if Perry and Kapanen, just due to
That's fine.
Corey
75%
Perry
up there.
can't play 20 minutes anymore, but he can
Well,
play
just with
12
his
to 13
age, right?
really effectively.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think it's a good move. With Corey Perry's age and Kapanen speed, I'm like, yeah, it's a good move.
Actually, I think Kasperi Kapanen's looked phenomenal this series.
I think he's very
16
underrated. I
change
know
in
he had an
last
off
game, Perry.
season, but I still like him. I've been a big believer of him back in the Leafs days.
Dan said, hey, he's a believer.
Ba, 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 ba,
Kapanen, when he's on the ice. Anyways,
We could see Perry around the 20 minutes. He was 16:51 last game.
I think
Well, that's a
Edmonton,
lot for 40-year-old.
I think Edmonton would love to get Perry down to about 12.
Well, that's where he was. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying he can't do it, but I don't think you want him to do that and then potentially have a 7-game series against Florida, right? And I mean, don't get me wrong, they're going to want to get this done tonight. And looking at the defense now, looks like it is Troy Stetcher coming out of the lineup, which is too bad for Stetcher because I thought he's played at a really high level. But at the end of the day, someone's got to come out, right? And Matthias Ekholm is a very, very good defenseman. And you look at this defense lineup now. The only thing I would have done personally, I would be flipping Kulak and Wallman. I guess it just has to do with left and right-handed shots. But Jake Wallman has been playing at such a high level in these playoffs. He's been such a good shutdown defenseman. A move
Kulak
that I
has been too, though. He's been surprising me.
Yeah, but Wallman's has one of the best plus minus out of anyone in the playoffs at the moment.
Oh, I know he does.
And funny enough, I wasn't pleased with that trade when they got him. I'm like, why'd you get him when you need a goaltender? But I mean,
it paid off.
The goaltending's been holding pretty steady. Now, what I am curious about to see is how the power play units have changed.
Right.
So the power play at the top unit, you have Corey Perry replacing Zach Hyman. Well, that makes sense.
It does.
Right? And hello, Mr. Ibsen.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, 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 hi.
I kind of picture like, hey, guys.
Okay.
Hey, you guys.
How you doing? But the second power play unit is where, let's be honest, it certainly takes a bit of a hit, right? But mind you, the second power play unit doesn't even get a lot of minutes. We already have a prediction in the comments: 5-3 Edmonton.
Wow.
I can see that.
Nice.
I can see that. The only thing is Stuart Skinner either allows in 1 or 6. So,
literally.
But the power play, the second unit certainly does take a hit with Zach Hyman and Connor Brown out of the lineup.
Well,
however, this isn't a terrible second unit. Like,
isn't it funny? We're all talking about former Maple Leafs here. Like Zach Hyman, Connor Brown, and Barry Kapanen could almost be a third line for the Leafs back in the day.
Yep.
We already have a Stanley Cup prediction here, which is the Edmonton Oilers going all the way.
That's what Chazzy said since day one.
He did. Dan Gray thinks we are going to be up very
Triple
late
overtime.
Wow.
If that happens, Dan, I hope you're awake to come on the post-game show with us so you can be as exhausted as we are by the end of it. You'll
That's gonna be a fast
I'm
overtime.
sure Dan will fall asleep. Dan Moore will fall asleep during the first or second overtime if it goes to 3 OTs.
Oh, yeah.
But
We've been sleeping all days. I can take a nap.
I take a nap before games, not during. That's a dedicated sports fan. There's a difference. Lane just doesn't sleep, apparently.
Chazzy doesn't sleep either. He's up, go, 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 go.
But I will say I like the way Edmonton has rejigged their lines. I think they still look pretty damn effective. Like I even without key players, they still have guys that in theory should be able to contribute. It's more actually I'm more confused why Dallas hasn't made more tweaks to their lineup.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I agree with you. Like,
yeah,
kind of on the verge of elimination, and it feels like they're not really. You said they're not really making major changes here.
Yeah,
and that's true, Dan. For you, I guess it would only be about 11 p.m., so that's not too bad. It'd be about 1 a.m. for us.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I figure Chazzy will ship us coffee, like, from his house.
Oh, yeah, I got the late night game tonight, too, so that's fine.
Oh, we got Danton off out of the lineup, eh?
Yes.
Is he injured?
No.
Because they got Colin Blackwell back in and Dantonov out.
These are personally, if this was me, actually, Jamie Benn would be on my fourth line if they find Dallas. He's just been very ineffective. And I would be moving up Oscar Beck up to this third line because at least he's got some speed. It would give this line a bit more go. And I would be finding a way to get Garland more ice time.
Didn't they have Wyatt Johnson on the top line last game?
Who, sorry?
Didn't they have Wyatt Johnson on the top line in the last couple of games?
They did, but he's been doing absolutely nothing. And that is true. Ripson is still waiting for his coffee and muffin, Chazzy. Chazzy's delivery service would not get a 5-star rating on Uber Eats. But
well, Michael Glavin was on the top line for quite a while there.
Yeah,
so he was where Robertson is, which I would at least be putting him on the second line instead of Marchment.
Yeah.
I think Mason Marchment's more of a third line player. I think Wyatt Johnson should be higher up.
I think that
the Leafs would also get a 1-star rating on Ripson because they do not deliver.
They do in-seat service pretty fast. I will say that.
So there you go. So their in-seat service is great. Their on-ice service, not so much. But I was expecting, I don't know. I could see these lines getting into the blender if you're Dallas down early and you're not, let's say you're down 3-0 after the first, which I don't think is going to happen because I think Jake Ottinger is going to have a game tonight. And something will have to give, right? Because this team just can't seem to score, which is crazy when you look at this lineup. If they lose tonight, this will be the last time we see this line up for Dallas the way it is.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Because you have a lot of guys becoming unrestricted free agents. And let's be honest, if Dallas loses in the conference finals back-to-back years to the same team, I think it's a fail, especially when they went out and got Mikko Rantanen.
Are you saying it's similar to the Carolina situation?
Worse than the Carolina situation. See,
really?
The comment section agrees with me. Can I explain why it's worse than the Carolina situation?
Yeah, go for it.
So it is worse. I want to be a single shot for this. It is worse than the Carolina situation because in Carolina, you went out and made the move for the big stud and the big stud refused to play for you. And then you flipped the trade around as best as you could. You had a terrible time with that and you still managed to get to the conference finals. Dallas got the big stud and gave up a role player and draft picks to get him, right? So for Dallas, this was in the making that this was going to be what they needed to get to this stage. And I'll be honest, I don't know if you get to the third round without Mikko Rantanen. I don't know if you get by Colorado or Winnipeg without Mikko Rantanen. Even though Winnipeg did a pretty good job containing Rantanen, I am shocked the way Edmonton has just pretty much completely shut him down. And I think Edmonton's had the ideology, well, you don't need to defend if you're always playing offense. And that's been working for them, right? But I think it's worse for Dallas because, excuse me, you made that big trade and you're going to end up potentially winning one less game than you did last time without the big move.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be major changes in Dallas, and there is not as much cap room as what I originally thought there was going to be to work with. So that is to answer your question. I think this is worse than Carolina. At least Carolina is going to have over $20 million of cap room to work with. Dallas, what, Lane? You said last time we were talking has about 4?
Yeah, if that, like, just the way you thought you have more, but then when you get the Rantanen increase there, and then you get your Ottinger increase, that pretty much takes up Jamie Benn's contract. That really hurts, right? Because you thought, oh, you had $8 million coming up. You don't really, though.
And you're losing Benn, and I believe, and Duchesne as like your two big key pieces.
Like usually Duchesne too.
And whether or not Duchesne's had a great playoff or not this year, he was a big part of your regular season team.
Oh yeah, he was a point-to-game player, right?
So what I mean is, you can't, if you're Dallas, do what Carolina is rumored to do and go after a guy like Mitch Marner, who has been a point-per-game player pretty much his whole career.
Right.
With $4 million, you're looking at a role player.
Yeah.
And so they're going to have to get creative. It does bring the question, will you see more moves made? And I believe Wyatt Johnson's contract's coming up too now. He's a restricted free agent, but still, Dallas is in cap hell.
Oh, yeah.
Dallas is in cap hell to potentially win one less game than they did last year.
Yeah.
That's a disaster. Like, at least Carolina, it was a disaster situation, and they found a way to not. Hey, we're going to be having lots of Leaf talk coming up, either way. We will be doing a show more about what
Who's
Brad
14?
Living said.
But who's knowing that Lane and the puppy are saying Tree Living has confirmed Marner's not coming back. Any early teams of signing him?
Now, he didn't come right out and say Marner.
It might be a sign and trade kind of deal.
No.
No.
That's basically confirmed. That's not happening.
Hmm.
I think Marner either signs in Toronto or he leaves. I would say it's about a 90-10. 90% that he's leaving, 10% that he's staying.
Any
Anything
early
can happen.
teams?
Anything
That's
can happen when
interesting.
Timothy goes to school.
Yeah.
Funny enough, Carolina is a team that I keep seeing being brought up in the mix.
Chicago.
I've heard Marner does not want to play in Canada. So sorry, Chazzy. Montreal cannot get a guy to help you win one more
That's
game in the first round.
Wants his taxes.
I don't think it's taxes. I honestly think it's media pressure. I
I think so
it's
for
media
sure.
pressure.
Absolutely.
And so I've been hearing Chicago, Carolina, the Sharks. And
Yeah, Sharks are going to be dangerous.
he meant
They're
16.
young anyway.
Yeah, it's okay.
They're dead 16.
I'm just confused. I'm sitting here. Who's 14 in Maple Leafs?
But
Has
I
anyone
believe,
ever done the number 14 for the Leafs?
I believe the odds.
Jonas Holgren?
I believe the odds favorite as of right now.
Not staging?
Okay.
I miss Matt Stajan.
He's a good player.
14. I don't know.
I believe the odds favorite though was Chicago.
Makes sense. Connor Bedard needs a play. Needs someone to
We're
play.
back to the Panther fans flooding the chat.
Yay. Go Panthers.
There's Cameron.
They looked pretty good last night. Wow, it was nice to see.
What was crazy about that Panthers game last night, actually, quickly, was the way Carolina looked like they had that game really under control, and Florida is just like, that's cute. And then they just completely dominated, right? And if you're Edmonton, this is why you just want to get this done.
Boy, Barkov versus McDavid, what a show off for the
So I got a
Cup.
question
Holy
for you
cow.
guys. What do you guys think about this not starting till June 4th, no matter who wins? I think it's a long time before the finals starts.
I don't
Too
know.
long.
I think it's too long.
Way
So
too
do I.
long.
Because for once, you can actually give the players more time of off season. Everyone
They probably want
complains,
to get going.
yeah, everyone complains, oh, well, it goes into mid-June, and that's too late, blah, blah, blah. Well, for once, we can start at the beginning of June. Like, if you started it on, like, I would start it on Monday here. Like,
Dan Gray was suggesting Sunday in the comments.
Sunday, I like that. You
Yeah,
finish
You know what?
that's
If
the
you do
next day.
Sunday, you're only giving Florida one extra day off versus Edmonton, so it's
Yeah.
not like it's a huge. But just to answer another question here about where Marner could be going, this was posted on Sportsnet. We're not sponsored by Sportsnet, but we could be on May 22nd. And some of the teams that have been floating around the world have been the LA Kings,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
the Utah Mammoth, or
Yep.
AKA the
Wow.
Utah Hockey Club. The Vegas Golden Knights. I mean,
Cool.
this team is always known for trying to make a splash, and I'm sure Mark Stone can get in and stub his toe for the next 10 months. Pittsburgh Penguins. This is one that I could really see happening. Is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Kyle Dubas and Mitch Marner had a very good relationship. They used to go out for dinners. Go for
can I just say
Yeah, but what's
something?
their cap at? Their cap can't be that healthy.
Well, I think there's a good chance they buy out a guy like Erik Karlsson to bring in a guy like Mitch Marner.
Can I just say something that sounds really
The
bad?
New York Islanders as well, by the way. Colorado Avalanche, Chicago Blackhawks, Carolina Hurricanes, and Washington Capitals. There's a way to get Ovechkin to 1,000 goals quick. Get Mitch Marner on it. Get Mitch Marner
Yeah,
passing
that's
it to him in
true.
the same spot. We also have a Vegas fan in the chat. And Cameron, I got to agree with you. Vegas is a
Vegas.
fun team to watch, and I absolutely
Oh, yeah.
love their atmosphere. But Dan, you
Vegas
wanted
is
to say
cool.
something.
Yeah, I know it sounds bad, but we know Marner's not going to sign. Whether he signs in Vegas or Carolina or Pittsburgh, who cares? It's not Toronto.
Dan, there
That's
are
not
32
Toronto.
teams
Who
in the
cares?
league, not 31. There's
More
not
force
one.
all of it. What have you done for me lately? Move on.
Yeah,
See ya,
exactly.
Marner.
I am surprised, though, on this list they're not talking to San Jose Sharks. I could still really see him going to San Jose. Put a line of Marner, Celebrini, and Toffoli, and that's a line that might get the Sharks back up into the winning column.
I know one place he's not going to go to.
Toronto.
Buffalo.
Huh. Probably not.
No.
And yeah, you know what?
Vegas.
Vegas is a team that likes to make big splashes, whether they can afford it or not. They somehow find a way to do it.
Find a way to do it, get it done. Exactly.
Not the city, the strip.
It is true. I mean, Vegas is quite. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas until the Vegas Golden Knights go on the road. Then they don't stay in Vegas anymore. But
well, you think about we talk about fails. I think Vegas have failed too. Like there's a couple years in a row now they've been eliminated in the second round by Edmonton. I mean,
but they won a cup 3 years ago, right? So
that's the difference. That's the difference. Yeah,
that kind of gives them a little bit less heat versus Toronto or Carolina or Dallas right now.
Carolina won 2006.
That's not recent, bro. Which I can't believe. 2006 was like 19 years ago.
Yeah, but there's 32 teams in the league, right?
Like,
not that bad.
It's still bad. Nobody cares about 2006. Lane, you have a question.
So yeah, it's actually so.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So I want to put this around the room because we're talking about failures, right? And Rob Brind'Amour in his press conference, I was watching it today, and when he came in, there was a lot of negative questions, right? Like, well, why hasn't this happened, and why haven't you done this? And he kind of, at some point, I actually couldn't believe he did this. He got really, really peed off, and he kind of went to the media and said, "What's with all this negativity? Why does everyone think this is a failure?" Like he kind of called out the media, especially in the NHL, just in general, about why getting to the second and third round of the playoffs is considered a failure when that is something that is so hard to do in his mind. He said, you look at some of the rosters and some teams that are very competitive and they don't make it. And you look at teams that have struggled to make it into the playoffs. And he thinks it's so bad that the media puts this narrative to the fan bases of these teams that their team is considered a failure because they didn't win the Stanley Cup. He said, I don't think, if you would have asked me straight up when coming into this season, I didn't even think we were a playoff team. He thinks he looked.
Yeah, I've seen this.
He said, I didn't think we would even make the playoffs. I thought we'd be like a lottery team. He's like, the fact that we made it to the playoffs, made it to the third round, I think it's very successful. And the media, you guys need to do a better job at stop presenting this like it's a woe is me moment every 5 seconds because your team didn't win the cup. Only one team wins the cup every year. It's not a failure.
Yeah, but I'm going to say this right now. I think for Rob Brind'Amour, I think if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. You're being paid a lot of money to stand behind a bunch of players who are also being paid a lot of money. And, the media's mean to me. Get over it. You're being paid millions of dollars because a fan base thinks you can get the job done.
I agree.
At the end of the day, Carolina, and to say that you thought they were a lottery team, that is such a disrespect to all the players that you just went to war with for 3 series. Talk about Paul Maurice, quote unquote, disrespect for not doing the handshakes. I don't know why it's such a big controversy. He hasn't been doing it for the last 3 seasons. But at the end of the day, it's one of those ones there. I think that is a real slap in the face to your players. Can you imagine if I just went up to, I was a restaurant owner and we came in second place in a food competition and we were really upset that we didn't win. And the owner just says, well, truthfully, I kind of thought our ribs were crap. So I'm surprised we even placed. That's basically the same attitude. Yeah. And back to the comment section here from Cameron saying he's a fan of more than one team, which is the Leafs. So at least he's still cheering for a home team. And I will say, as Leaf fans, you usually need a backup team. Yeah, unfortunately, the backup team was the New York Islanders, and they also did not make the playoffs.
Well, world draft pick.
But Dan, to your point on this, because you look like an eager beaver, and the beaver is the national animal of Canada.
Yeah, I actually agree with Lane here, and I agree with what Rob Brind'Amour said, because after the whole flip league thing is Carolina being as bad as they are, it's not their fault because they went into it. It's the GM's fault 100%. for not negotiating with Rantanen beforehand, like Dallas did. But it wasn't the players' fault on the ice. And I was going to bring up a point to Jacob there. Jacob's always an Islander fan. And Jacob's always going on, oh, the Islanders made it to the third round every time. And the Islanders are so great making it to the third round. Oh, well, they get put in the third round. Who cares? Blah, blah, blah. So why is it okay for the Islanders, but not okay with teams like Carolina?
Because the Islander coach never said he was okay with it.
Okay, with what?
Team booted out in the third round. Rob Brendamore basically just went, well.
Well.
Like, that's ridiculous. I've never heard a coach say, oh, stop being mean. You never heard that being said by Bruce Boudreau when he used to coach the Islanders when they get booted out to the Tampa Bay Lightning in 6 or 7. And that's another big difference too. 6 or 7. Those series between the Islanders and the Lightning were some of the best conference final games I'd ever watched.
Oh, they were.
Two teams. When the Tampa Bay Lightning, who, let's be honest, on paper, it was an all-star team versus a minor league hockey team. Yet the minor league hockey team kept finding ways to push it to 6 and 7. On paper, Carolina to Florida, and I may get some heat for this take, and that's fine. I don't think it's as big of a gap between those two teams on paper as what everyone else is making it out to be. Carolina is a very good team. And I think Rob Brendamore basically just saying, I think it's just a cop-out for him not being able to admit that he got out-coached and they didn't come ready to go. If they were ready to go at the beginning of that series, the way you guys are all shaking your heads at me, and that's more than fine. But
Jazzy's thinking no, Lane's thinking yes with you. I'm thinking no with Jazzy.
But tell me, why is Carolina such a bad team? Who is so bad on that Carolina roster? You have Chesnikov, you got Arho, you got Jarvis, you have Brett Burns, you have Logan Stank.
You like the island of misfit. You like the island of misfit toys from Where Off to Where Those Windy, okay?
So last
bunch of mediocre players. There's no franchise.
You're telling me that Sebastian Aho is mediocre? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Compared to McDavid, yeah, it's mediocre.
Okay, compared to McDavid, every single player in the league is mediocre. What is your point?
I'm just saying.
Compare Carolina's fourth line Edmonton's. There'd be no comparison. Evan Bouchard's a mediocre defenseman compared to Jacob Slavin. What's your point?
I think this is Brindamore telling the media why so much negativity? You don't really knew what was going on behind the scenes. Last summer, you're on the golf course looking at your lineup. You're like, okay, we're mediocre. Mid-season or whenever they made that trade, the team changed.
Right.
Atmosphere changed. Tone changed for however long Rantanen was there. Culture changed. Then you had to change gears again and move on from Rantanen, salvage that, bring in some pieces that now just made you guys go to the conference finals for what, the third time in, was it third time in what, 3 or 4 years? Anyway, This is what Brindamore is pretty much saying is like what he saw at the beginning of the year and what they went through, which nobody sees what's going on in the locker room all year. He's like, yeah, we climbed a mountain. We didn't get to the peak. We got to the third tier. We got some work to do in the off season. If they make it back, they make it back. But like I said, it's crazy if he loses his job over this.
I agree with Jazzy.
You know, it is a success for these guys in my book, and I'm with him on that.
Do you think calling up the GM, but like I think the comments, like also what he made is basically telling the GM, you suck at your job.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's that or he's just saying to the media like this is what it is.
Chadsy, he literally said you can look it up if you don't believe me. He said, well, we lost Gensel, Teravainen, and Nikash.
He's right. Absolutely, you did.
I forgot we lost Gexo too.
He's like after who we lost and we didn't really replace him. I really looked at this team like it wasn't that good. So he basically
that's the facts. He's giving you the facts.
Yeah, but I don't like the way he's basically telling his team, "Hey, we suck."
No, I don't think he's telling you.
He said just what he saw at the beginning.
That is like saying, Dan, you are not bad for eating your name key. Just every time you're on the podcast, you hide your face.
No, Jacob, it's not.
No, I'm not saying anything wrong. I'm just telling you what you think is incorrect.
When we did this pilot more for the puppy and I, and then when you saw that, you're like, forget it, and then look at us now. We're doing
Okay,
live.
but I didn't do a media press conference in front of a couple
Well,
hundred
you
thousand
told
people
us that we
watching.
stunk. You said you guys are horrendous.
And that's the thing,
I
Jacob.
did
That's
not
what
go out in public. I didn't go on Facebook Live and say, "Hey, the Streakers Island podcast about me are a bunch of idiots," which I'm not saying you guys are, but like that's what I'm getting at. If Rob Brendamore wants
Not
to say
anymore.
that,
We would've
if
been.
Rob Brendamore behind closed doors wants to say that, that's one thing, and I do understand being frustrated with the negativity of the media. You
see,
do,
Jacob.
no, hold on. You do realize without the media, you don't have a job, right? If all the media people just said, you know what,
You can tell who works in the media.
you do not like us. I agree, Alex. See a press conference of us. I would love to put these boys in the hot seat in front of real reporters and see what would happen. That would be worth the price of admission and the $30 beers that are at the Sky Dome. But I'm just saying, Alex wants it so badly. He commented it twice, boys.
Copy and paste, bro. Copy and paste. But what I was trying to say, Jacob, is the difference what you're missing out is you're taking it as Rob Brendamore calling out his Spence.
He did.
I take it as he's not calling out his Spence. He's calling out for media.
By saying, I didn't think my players were good enough to be a playoff team.
At the beginning of the year. When he
Yeah, exactly.
Unless there's more to the quote that I don't know about, but if then let's say he went on about the hard work of the group that got them where they did, that's fine. But if I'm taking it face value from what I've heard from this quote. And from what I've heard from this quote, and I'm not saying you fire Rob Brendamore. I think I think maybe you look into giving Rob Brendamore I don't know why coaches and GMs just are not the same person. I actually miss when they used to do that.
Well, Daryl Sutter and Pat Quinn did back in the day.
Because the coach knows what they want, right? So then they can just get what they want. You save money that they can spend on water bottles or cardboard water bottles.
Oh my God.
And Alex, that's a very good point. It does read worse than it sounds.
Yeah, 100%.
So maybe
I think we gotta see it. See
maybe
the body.
I need to go watch the clip later
Yeah.
and see how I feel about it afterwards. But I just think of Carolina. I think that I still think this roster is very underrated. And you go get this team one more stud, and they're right back. And they're gonna have the cap space to do it. That's the exciting thing.
Point is, they didn't have the stud this
Maybe
year, and that's
goalie.
all Brendamore was saying. And without the stud, they played very well.
I don't
That's
know.
it.
Well, you could argue there's like 4 or 5 studs on that
You're
team.
creating drama that doesn't exist.
But I think that Chazzy's point, you can argue. You look at Jarvis, Aho, Shestnikov. That's 3 very, very high-end players right there. Plus, then you have Jacob.
Okay, 4
Slavin.
Flyers and the 4 Nason.
They are not. What's your point? Tage Thompson didn't make the 4 Nations, and he scored the gold medal goal for Team USA in the World Hockey Championship. John Tavares didn't make the 4 Nations, so does that mean you would rather have someone who did?
Like Sam Bennett? Yes, please.
What I'm getting at is that's a really stupid way to tell if someone's a good player or not.
Connor McDavid? Yes, please.
Obviously, I would want Connor
Nathan
McDavid.
McKinnon? Yes, please.
You're just
Alexander
rhyming off better
Blackoff?
players.
Yes, please.
You're just rhyming off better players. That's
I
kind
was
of
impressed with
That's the whole
Morfor's
point,
history
Jacob.
book of 14s on the Leafs.
Yeah, I was thinking on top of my head blow. I'm like, holy cow, that's not bad. Matt Stacey is Jonas Hoagland. I swear if it's a Maple Leaf trivia night, I think I could do pretty well at it.
all I'm getting at is for the Carolina Hurricanes. I do honestly feel this team is much closer than people realize it. I think you go out and actually everyone's going on about get Mitch Marner. Why not go get John Tavares?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what I
that's
think.
when
It's
we
pretty
just-
fast. Yeah.
This team's already fast, and their power play needed a guy that can actually run a bumper position properly. Bring him to be a third line center and a power play specialist, because I think Logan Stankoven's going to be a really, really key player for you next year.
Yeah,
I mean, 8 points in 15 games, and he started on the 4th line in these playoffs.
that's really good.
Like, I think this Carolina team is right there.
No, I think you mentioned analyst. You said Stankoven is a generational player for a team.
When they got Logan Stankoven, and Dave's like, why the hell did they do that trade? I'm like, no, you don't realize how good this kid is.
I didn't know. I got
He's
a bet on
great
it.
hands. He's got a wicked shot. And actually, depending how Rantanen works out, it'll be interesting to compare the trade 3 years later. To
Well,
see how
look,
Stankoven's doing in Carolina versus if Rantanen's still trying in Dallas, because we now know he's a crybaby.
looking back in the day when we traded Joe Newendike for a guy named Jerome McGinley, right? We all sat here thinking, who's Jerome McGinley? Now,
Turned out to be a real
you know,
stud.
Now, you can't really say it was a bad trade because Joel Nieuwendyk was the missing piece of Dallas to get the cup in '99. But then you look at Joel McGinn, he was a franchise player for Calgary for 15 years and went off to Pittsburgh and Colorado and these other places and still played half decent, right? He was a great Hall of Fame career for 20 years. So was it a good trade? Was it a bad trade? Because Dallas did what they did. They traded for Joel Nieuwendyk that year. Joel McGinn went that year with Joel Nieuwendyk and got the Stanley Cup that year. So was it a bad trade?
But I think I agree with you, Dan. It wasn't a bad. Actually, it was a good trade for both sides. But
Yeah,
I think for Dallas, it's worse if you go out in this round than Carolina because you look at as we've just all argued. I personally think Carolina's roster is better than at least half of you guys feel. Lane's on my side. The Carolina is actually a deeper roster than they get credit. Dallas, there's no argument that their roster's deep. Right?
Oh, for sure.
And if they get basically they have won one period this entire series. Realistically, Dallas is very lucky that Stuart Skinner let in 5 goals in one period, or else they might have got swept.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying that game was Skinner's fault, but he wasn't the solution. And Dallas, I think this was their year to get to the Cup Finals and potentially win a cup. I think this was their year to do it. They went and got Rantanen. And now, again, I'm not saying the Rantanen trade was a fail before you go on and on about it, but by getting Rantanen and signing him to triple of what his deal is now, and then we have Ottinger's contract doubling, which, by the way, I think Jake Ottinger's worth what he's about to get paid.
Yeah.
But then what happens is, okay, now you have Duchesne and you have Ben. There's a whole bunch of guys that are coming up as UFAs for Dallas.
Sagan next year.
Like it may be a dark time in Dallas,
but
if it doesn't get done. You better hope they have some studs in their farm system that I don't know about.
Yeah, I mean,
moving some hay around or something. I don't know, but yeah, that's why I think for Carolina, I agree with Brendamore to a point where people are all doom and gloom. The reason why you're all doom and gloom is you only won one game, and Game 5 was very winnable.
Well, yeah, it's the way you
Game
lost.
5. If let's say it was a tight game all the way, you never had a multi-goal lead, and you lost. Okay, you had a 2-0 lead going into the second period, and you were dominating. That's why everyone is kind of like, ugh. Same reason why in Leafland. I mean, Leafland, we all said conference finals are bust, right? And it took the Game 7, but that Game 7 was probably the worst Game 7. I would argue that was worse than when the Leafs blew a 3-1 lead to Boston in 8 minutes. That was literally the worst Game 7 I have ever seen.
Yeah, it was that bad. Now, one thing I gotta say here is we're all kind of letting Dallas off, but I'm
not writing them off. I'm just saying if they don't get it done, it's an epic
I'm the odd one in the room. As much as I want the Oilers to win, I don't think Dallas is losing in 5. I really don't.
I think Dallas will win tonight, but Edmonton will win the series.
That's how I feel too. And in fact, when I challenged you to a rivalry on Streakers, that's why I picked Dallas.
Yeah, you're making me pick what I don't even believe in, you bugger. But
that's what makes it fun, bro. But you could challenge me back.
Lane wants to show us something, and I hope
it's just a clip from the press game conference. You said you wanted to see what he said. I just thought I found where here's the words that he said. I just thought we could play it for the group, but basically, at least you can hear from his word, not my mouth. But yeah,
how do you measure the disappointment of falling short with the achievement of getting to this stage?
Thank you. That works into it's the craziest thing that we're this far, and it's all we're hearing is negativity from everybody. And it's when I walked this summer and with the pieces that were left this organization, I was like, I don't think we're making playoffs. I was that worried about it because it was such a mass exodus of good players to free agency, and then we were able to find good players to fill in, and then I was like, I don't know if they're that good. But they hung in there. So I got nothing but pride with this group. And, we didn't love how this kind of.
But even still, he's basically said, I don't know if they're good.
Saying that the key words at the end, but I have pride in this group, makes me feel very different about that entire clip.
Yeah, exactly.
If there's nothing about I have pride in this group or anything, I would have continued my WTF.
Yeah.
But you know what? I do agree. I disagree that I didn't think they were going to be a playoff team going into this season. Actually, I had Carolina as my sleeper pick going into the year when I was talking with some buddies before we did the Streakers Down podcast, powered by Streakers Gamer, not Home Depot. And I had Carolina as kind of my sleeper pick. I said, I think this team's a lot better than everyone gives them credit for, and I think they'll make the playoffs.
A lot of people had Carolina winning the cup this year.
Actually, weirdly enough, they were the odd favorite.
I don't know
They were the
why.
favorite
Yeah,
going
I don't.
in.
Chazzy, you're in this world for longer than I have been, all in sports, fantasy, and just in general. If you're older than me, why was Carolina considered a favorite?
Hey, that's a great question. I was surprised just as much as anybody else having them at the top of like this is even before Dallas and Colorado even played. Like what we had Florida in there, Tampa, yeah, and Carolina was number one. I don't know what they saw, but they obviously saw something to get to the conference finals.
The only thing they might have saw is that we talked about going in. Carolina certainly had an easier road, and Bry Pup is calling you out, Mr. Moore, for it's weird seeing Dan without a hat on.
Well, I was going to put on a hat if I'm wearing a dress shirt. So I really put on a hat with a dress shirt because I don't know. I like to show off my nice haircut too. Maybe give Jacob a hint.
I'm not
Fresh
getting a
air.
haircut
I don't
until
know.
the playoffs are
I
done.
look at it like, how can you say the third round team? I know you did lose some players, but how can you sit there and say a team that went to the third round you don't think is a playoff team? Like, I feel like that's like saying, well, the Leafs don't belong in the playoffs because they went to the second round. Like, I don't agree with that. Like, you literally went to the third round the year before. You lost a few guys. I get you're going to lose
Well, we
players.
lost a few really big pieces.
Yeah, but you
I
still had
forgot
a lot
about
of players
Gesso.
too. You still had Aho, and you still had a
Shostakov.
lot. You still had
Slavin.
Svechnikov, Aho. Like, I feel like you can't look at
Jarvis.
that. Like, making the playoffs is hard, but when you're a team that goes to the third round, that is the bare minimum of requirement to do. Like, making the playoffs for a team that went to the third round is not really a hard thing to do. To be honest, I still think it's disrespectful.
What up, guys?
Jackson Taylor.
How's it going,
think-
Mr. Jackson?
Right on.
I
think it's-
am for real.
Like that Jays red symbol.
I was thinking that too. Let's see. It's like a
Do they have
Canada
a
Day
red
logo.
uniform? Do the Jays have a red uniform?
They do for
They do a
Canada.
Canada Day.
Oh, okay. Like is it red or is it white and with red?
It's like
trim?
yeah.
No, it's like that.
Black
Red,
division?
yeah.
But I do want to ask you guys, as we're getting closer to puck drop, who's taking the game tonight? And again, if you want to play along in the Streakers app, make sure you download the app right now.
See, I can't put in my hat.
Stop waiting on
I'm playing Chazzy's
something
hat.
else to happen in your life. You're actually pointing at me. But make sure you download the Streakers app.
I think you're the one talking.
Who are you guys projecting to win this one? I'm going to go first. As I've said, Edmonton will win the war. Dallas is going to win this one section of the fight. The Dallas Stars will take game 5. And I could easily see it being an overtime thriller, as Dan Gray pointed out in the comment section
Yeah.
earlier. But I think Dallas will take game 5. Mr. Chazzy 5.201. Depending on your answer, we'll see if your update gets approved. Bry Pop in the comments is taking Dallas.
Oh, he's
tonight.
taking Dallas.
Ah.
Stars. But what are your thoughts, Mr. Chazzy 5.201?
I'm sticking with the Edmonton Oilers.
Oh, the headband. Nice.
They-
I could
Headband
see
on the hat.
So I love the headband, by the way, getting to work in oil
That's
country.
awesome.
Mr. Dashko, then with dashing of them all, who are you taking tonight? Are you taking the Dallas Stars? Are you taking the Edmonton Oilers? So far, we have me taking Dallas, Chazzy taking Oilers, Bry Pup taking Dallas. Comment section can play along. Why the hell not?
I'm with the Chazinator tonight. I'm taking the Oilers. I think this is your finals. I don't think it's going to get extended. I think Edmonton has just as much motivation as Florida to go up there and end it tonight and get them punch their ticket to the finals and start working on a strategy of how to beat these Florida Panthers.
See, your only set there is why I think Edmonton might lose this game tonight is because I think they might be thinking ahead to Florida and not just getting the job done tonight. I get this at their
Yeah.
second time trying to get to the Cup Finals. As much as you say we're not going to get ahead of ourselves, it's easy enough to get ahead of yourselves anyways. It's why most accidents happen close to your home when you're driving a car, right? You're already thinking you're home. But Mr. Moore, for your money,
Yes, sir.
who's taking it?
I said before, I'll say again. I want Edmonton, but I'm going to pick Dallas for tonight. And like I said, I think Skinner has one more bad game in him. I think this could be the game in Dallas. And I think Dallas did dominate the one period that they won. They didn't just win the period, they dominated the period. And I think it could dominate the game. I really do. I think we could see a blowout for Dallas here.
Jackson is
Good pick,
taking
Jackson.
the Oilers. So far we have 3 for Dallas and 3 for Edmonton.
We need the next comment to break the tie.
Dun, dun, dun. But I think either way, we're going to get a great game. I don't think we're going to see a blowout on either side. I know, Dan, you keep saying this. Stuart Skinner has a bad game in him. I don't know. Skinner looks even better than I think he did last year in the playoffs, which I thought that was his best hockey he could play. But he's clearly proved me and a lot of critics wrong. And let's say Skinner has an off night early on. You just pull him and put in Calvin Pickard,
he's back on the bench.
He's back on the bench. I think Edmonton is actually in a pretty good state for goaltending for the first time probably since Mike Smith, where they're feeling confident in their netminders that they're going to get saves. But another big game is going on as we speak, and that is the Memorial Cup semi.
Oh, that already started.
Oh, I forgot about
What time was that puck drop?
Believe it was 7.
Oh.
7 or 7:30, maybe 7:32 and a half. Puck drop was at 7. It's currently 0-0. So
well, that's end of the first, possibly.
Does not say where we are in the game, which is kind of dumb.
That's dumb.
But this is a really big one for both of these teams, right? Like you have whoever wins this goes on to the finals to take on Medicine Hat. And like I said, London made their road much tougher to get there, losing that game to the Medicine Hat Tigers earlier on. It's very hard in these tournaments to beat the same team twice. And that's what you got to do now is beat the same team twice.
Correct. Yep.
So it's going to be very difficult. Moncton is a very, very good team.
They are.
Right? Any team to get there is a good team. So.
Because that's the Memorial Cup. It's not just the best in your league, either OHL, WHL, QHL. It's the best in the country. So I think the OHL's got 23 teams. I don't know what the WHL and the QHL, but they're probably similar. So in theory, you're not just the best of 20 or 30 teams. You're best of 60 plus teams in order to make it to Memorial Cup. So get on these people. I mean, the NHL is the hardest professional sport to win, in my opinion, because it's 4 rounds of 7 games versus baseball. It's like a 3-game round in the beginning. Basketball, I think it's like 5-game round in the beginning.
Basketball 7, but at the beginning, usually the spread between the top teams in the NBA and the bad teams in the NBA are pretty big. Where in the NHL, you do see a first seed losing to an 8th seed. I don't think we saw that this year, but you look how now there are no actually on the NBA playoffs this year though. There's no number 1 seeds really that have really dominated. So it's been a surprise in the NBA this year. But Dan, I do agree with you. The NHL is usually the hardest professional.
Right.
The Jets, the 7, no?
But if that being said, I got to say Memorial Cup is even harder because it's not a professional sport, but it's hardest trophy to win because you do your 4 rounds of 7 to get the OHL trophy. You're not even done yet. Now you got to do a round robin, Olympic style, international style of tournament to get the Memorial Cup. Because let's face it, no one cares that London won the OHL championship. No one cares that whatever team won the WHL and the Madison Hat, right? No one cares about that. No one cares that the Mamuski and Moncton big the QHL thing.
I have to jump in here and admit that I'm a goof.
Yeah,
and the game is tomorrow, not today, which is why I can't find a score anywhere. But tomorrow at 7:00, set your PVRs if you're not home.
Oh, I see private chat. Yeah,
it's gonna be. Lane, I appreciate you not calling me out on the air, but I will call myself out on the air. It's okay.
So it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow,
and then the finals is what, Sunday?
The sports analyst is having a rough day today.
Okay.
He's having a rough day. He's so
That's
busy.
what we're here for, to get him through it, right, boys?
Power steering through it.
So they get an extra day off.
Day. Yeah, they do.
Hello,
in the
my
first
friend.
period.
Anyways, we should have a really good game tonight, though, between Edmonton and Dallas. It looks like we are split between the island and the passengers on the boat that are supposed to come help us get off the island, but never actually do. It's like
Are
Love
these
Island.
the passengers
the
Oscar
Cartoon
Matthews are
Network.
calling out?
Oh, no.
You guys are on the walking bridge.
No, Austin Matthews talking about the guys who need to walk the plank.
Oh.
Also, too, just a quick reminder, CFL football preseason action again tomorrow. Should be some really good games, weather permitted. You may see some of us down in Guelph tomorrow, so we'll be posting some stuff on social media with the Argos versus the Ticats.
Jacob doesn't want to get wet.
I don't feel like sitting in pouring rain, no. But yeah, we should have some excellent content coming up. But I think it's time that we sign off and get ready to watch Dallas win.
I'm hungry.
Dan is always hungry, though. Like, I swear, Dan probably wakes up at 3 a.m. and decides to order a pizza.
I'm hungry again.
He's always hungry. No, he's got to get up at 3 a.m. to bring Lane to Gaviscon. That's what he's got to do.
That's right. Yeah, that's fun time.
But of course, thank you very much for watching, everyone. If you're looking for more Streakers content, make sure you follow the Streakers On podcast on all
there you go.
social media.
There you gotta go. Oh, social media.
You just did it for me. Thank you. And
you
want to play along in our sports booth? Well, you got to download the Streakers app. You haven't downloaded the Streakers app. Well, I don't understand what you're doing with your life.
Not much.
Like, you've just failed, right? So make sure
No one cares if you have
failure.
2.5 kids and your Gordon Retriever and your caravan right picket fence. We care about you downloading the Streakers app.
You can have all those things and download the Streakers app. Picture how much better your life will be sitting on your porch, petting your Golden Retriever behind your white picket fence with your 2.5 kids while playing Streakers. Because you got to deal with the kids somehow. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching the podcast. I am sure we will be back for a post game if Lane is still awake, because Lane has not gone to bed yet. Although, Lane, you could pull a Dan and just sleep during the game. Dan fell asleep at a Grey Cup game once, so, I mean, anything's possible.
The wind was cold. I was trying to close my eyes. Doing up in the bleachers in Hamilton. Ugh.
But anyways, thanks very much for watching. I'm Jacob Moore, the self-proclaimed sports analyst. We have Chazzy 5.201. Mr. More for your money. And Lane Dashing Dashco. Until next time, we'll see you for the post-game show.
Bye-bye.